Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. Welcome to another episode of Vibe Gardening from Edition. We're going to go and talk about how we're going to harden our indoor plants for outdoors. As we have looked at how to germinate them and care for seedlings, we're going to talk about how to prepare them to go out into the wild. With that said, let's go. All right, guys, as I've seen to this point, we've talked about how to germinate and bring seedlings to a mature state. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to get these guys ready for the outdoors, as I mentioned in the intro. And as you can see with me wearing a jacket, it's not exactly warm yet, but we're at the point right now where right now with the parsley, these guys are getting ready to go out into the outdoors. And the rosemary, these are the ones that I have propagated from last season. As you have guys probably seen my two-part episode on how to propagate rosemaries. And finally, I'm going to talk about why these chamomile here are not quite ready to go outdoors yet. And then finally, in this to end the episode, I'm going to go a little bit of introduction on microclimates and how that's going to affect taking your plants outdoors. Though I will not focus this whole entire episode on how to handle microclimate, and that's a um, deeper topic that I'm going to have to spend the whole entire episode on. But this episode, we're going to go just talk about what's going to matter right now for you to understand how to get your plants outdoors. So with that said, here we go. So the first thing we're going to talk about a little bit is about when it is time for you to start taking your plants outdoors or start thinking about it. And one of the things is that depending on the temperature tolerance of your plants, I'm assuming you're watching here because you're in a colder climate like I am, in zone 6A here in Southeast Michigan, in that the winter is too cold for majority of these plants to grow. So what we're doing here is that when we're taking them outdoors into the garden, we have to make sure that our plants are getting ready to come out here full time, because starting out, it would be too much of stress for them to be able to handle the great outdoors in just one day, on the first day you bring them out. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that these plants are ready for whatever climate it is outside, from the temperature to the wind and to the lighting, because all of those will be different than what it is in your house. And the biggest factor here that we have to be careful with is going to be light. Because no matter how good your grow light is, unless you get really high wattage, you're probably going to end up with something that's not actually going to be as strong and as healthy as it is the natural sun. Because that is essentially what the golden standard is, right? We're only trying to imitate it with grow lights or whatever shop light you're using. So likely it's going to be stronger out here than what it is in there. And that's the number one thing. If you don't give your plant time to adjust, they might either stall or just outright die if the change is dramatic enough. And the other reason why that we're going to be doing this too is that the temperature outdoors, especially right now, look at me wearing my jacket, this is going to be significantly colder than it is in the house itself. And so you gotta make sure the plant is getting ready for that temperature adjustment. And finally, there's going to be also wind. It's something that, yes, I have oscillating fan in my setup, as I've demonstrated in my previous videos, but the wind can potentially be a lot more dramatic and unpredictable, like we have with oscillating fan. With oscillating fan, you know the wind's coming at so many given time, right? Or you have a constant fan that is giving the plant this constant physical disturbance. But when you come outside, the gust of the wind can be significantly quicker and it's going to be unpredictable, because especially here in Southeast Michigan, the saying here is if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes, because it can be dramatic, right? Because right here last week we just saw the temperature swing significantly from way below freezing, about 25 degrees Fahrenheit, all the way up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit in just 2 or 3 days, and then swing back down to around freezing. So with that kind of temperature swing, it's something that the plant has to get used to. So like I said, the first thing that we're going to really try to address with getting your plants ready for the outdoor is going to be lighting. And because the sunlight is going to be significantly brighter than whatever grow light or shop light situation you have indoors. So one of the things for sure is that the best way to happen is like today right now. This is downcast day, in that it's cloudy all day or most of the day, So the sun is significantly diffuse and it's not direct and strong. And this is the best case scenario because you can basically take your plants out. If you're going to have 1 to 3 days worth of cloudy days, and actually I've noticed because a lot of my plants are under pretty strong shop light or grow lights, and some of them are even near a window. This will give the plant a little bit of a head start in getting adjusted to the outdoor lighting. So what you can do is wait for a cloudy day like today and just bring it out. Get it a whole entire day's worth of cloudy um, exposure. And once that happens, basically at that point, your hardening of the plant is over because they have fully adjusted. And the other thing that is that if you're going to have a sunny day and that's all you have, you want to start out slow. You want to make sure the first day you bring your plant out into the bright sunlight for only 1 hour. You might actually want to start it out in the shade first and then give it a full hour of sunlight exposure. Second day, give it 2 hours, and third day, give it 4 hours. And then from then on, the fourth day, you can just leave it out or even just transplant at that time. That's generally speaking what happens. And again, it's going to be based on your experience to see how it works out. And if you're not sure if this is the right way to do it, you might want to use a sacrificial plant to make sure that it works out before you bring out the rest of your plants. But generally speaking, 3 days is more than enough for your plant to get adjusted to the outdoor lighting. And that is basically the general rule of thumb for that. And of course, the next question we want to answer is when is a good time for you to start bringing the plants out? So in this case, for my parsley, it's a significantly different story. I'm going to have to do a close-up in a minute. In that these parsley is generally a little sooner than I normally would do it. And that's because, like I said from my previous videos, these are what's called a biennial, which means they have a 2-year lifespan coming outdoors. And the mistake I made last season was I brought these guys out too early after they're significantly developed. And to avoid that mistake again, what I'm doing here is the moment it has one set or two set of true leaves, I'm bringing this right outdoors when the temperature is just about right, which for these guys in the beginning, we want to make sure it is at least 38 degrees Fahrenheit or approximately about 3 degrees Celsius. The moment we can get that as a low, I'm bringing this out so that it doesn't get cuddled into thinking that when it hits cold temperature, it's going to be false winter. So that's why these guys are coming out right away. But in general speaking, you want to wait until these plants are at least well established in their early vegetative state, if not into the mature state. You want to make sure that you have multiple sets of true leaves on these plants before you bring them out. Or in this case with the rosemary, since these are propagated from a mature plant, these guys are already spent all winter indoors, and they are actually quite mature and established. These guys are ready to come out already. And I'll also show you the example of the chamomile. This chamomile here is not quite ready. And even though it looks like, if you look at the seed tray, it's got green patches on every single one of these 6 cells, as I've shown from my germinating tiny seeds episode and the result. But the thing is that these guys will actually most likely not die when I bring them out at this point yet. But the reality is when you expose it to colder temperature like this, you're slowing down the development of these plants. So even though you're not going to kill them, but you're also taking away valuable time to get these guys ready for the growing season. So this is why I'm keeping them indoors until they actually hit close to maturity state before I bring them out. Because right now these guys are so small, I can't even tell if when I can actually thin them out because I don't even see a strategy yet because of how small they are. So clearly with something like this, these guys are not ready to come out yet. All right, so looking at this parsley here, you'll see that some of these already have 2 true leaves. And as you can see, it's already yellowing a little bit, which means that they're looking for more nutritious soil already. These guys are clearly ready to get transplanted as they've been out for a couple of days already. And actually for over a week now, getting used to the temperature. But you see this one right here, this one's tiny. It's barely showing true leaves. This one is not yet ready to get transplanted. Now to show you guys a little bit of this chamomile that I've been talking about, as you can see, it is very small. You see the size of my fingers? This is what a true not ready for germination look like for chamomile. It's not even big enough for me to be able to truly even thin it out yet. Alright guys, so final topic I want to talk about today is going to be a little bit of introduction into microclimates and how that's going to affect your ability to be able to bring your plants out earlier in the season. So right here, this is my backyard, as we've been already in here for a little while. And this is going to be the tomato bed that I've showcased last season. And this right here is against the brick wall of my house. And right now, this direction is west, so the sun, afternoon sun in the west, is going to be shining right against this brick wall. And with the way that physics works, is that brick is a very heat absorbent material, making this essentially a solar heat bank that goes into the nighttime. So at nighttime, this is getting a good 5 to 10 degree temperature shift Fahrenheit, is at least my guess right here. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but it's quite a bit. And as I've seen for 2 seasons so far, is that I'm able to actually transplant my tomatoes out at about a month ahead of the last frost date, which is dramatic. Well, not a whole month, but like 2 weeks before, as opposed to transplanting tomatoes 2 weeks after the last frost date. So I'm getting at least a whole month, a 4 week, a whole month head start on being able to transplant my tomato. And also when the fall comes, tomato can basically survive into November if the condition is correct. So this right here is a massive help in that with a given proximity to the brick wall, if I put the tomato plants really close to the brick wall, I would essentially be able to take full advantage of the ability to put my tomato plants out here almost a whole entire month earlier than the predicted. And that's something that you can actually build into. And the other thing that helps is, if you can see right there, that is my central air. So this right here combined with the fence my neighbor has essentially blocks wind. And behind the camera, which you cannot see, on that side is going to be my shed. So it basically creates a wind block on both sides of this garden combined with the solar. That's how I'm able to get such a long season compared to the typical that you can get in this location. Again, this is a very big topic. I'm going to probably have to have a whole entire episode on microclimates and how you can actually augment your local growing environment for your advantage and be able to extend your season longer. But in very minimum, with just the brick wall and the wind block, we're gaining at least a month early season and potentially another month at the end of the season, giving me 2 extra months to grow, which is huge in Southeast Michigan. All right, guys, so that concludes this episode on how to prepare your plants for going into the great outdoors. And this should give you an idea of what stage in the plant's life it's ready to come out, when you should come out, and also a special case on the biennial, which is parsley here. So with that said, this really is going to be the conclusion of my seed starting and starting your first garden course, which I hope gives you a good idea of what you're doing when it comes to getting your plants from seed to being out in your garden in a fashion that's going to give you the most out of the growing season. So guys, leave the comments below if you got any better ideas for hardening your plants, because this is basically the very basics here. And please subscribe for more content in the future. I'm going to go into how I journey through learning how to basically do soil planting and hydroponics. And you get more notifications of also my micro updates using shorts. So guys, until next time, keep gardening and keep vibing. Let's go.